So part 2, I got a list of things that I wanted to continue doing. Thought it would be great to do. I wrote some things down in the description, some ideas, effects, visual effects, sound effects, haptics, sticking into things. But really, the main reason I'm here is because we were discussing on the Discord, and Jim Puddin, he said something, where was it? If you take the reference points, and then he was mentioning that he was doing ownership transfer on start, and I totally forgot that we did that because ownership transfer stops all the subsequent code from running. Totally forgot about that. Really important note. So we're going to try and solve for that bug because, oops, small bug in the last one. Really tiny fix though. So let's go ahead and open up that new Horizon desktop, or World's Desktop Editor as it's called. All right, here we go. There's the chat. Leave that open. Feel free to chat in the chat, and welcome in if you've just joined us. Great to have you. We are diving into the desktop editor. And now let's jump back into our bow and arrow tutorial world. So what you might remember last time was there was this little bit of latency or lag where the things weren't lining up correctly. I could swear in VR, I just didn't notice it. It was just like it worked as it did what I expected in VR. But I think it's a lot more noticeable on the desktop editor. But we can fix it, and it definitely should be fixed. So if I'm not mistaken, what we need to do is click on the bow. And what we did last time to make this easier to use is we changed it to be not interactive, just animated. And then we can go world simulation on, go ahead and click play. So when we walk in here, we can just grab the string, it's moving, definitely not staying in line with our hand. So that's part of the problem. We'll go ahead and let go. Nice. Okay, and firing multiple times. So when I grab this, does it get better? No, it does not get better after subsequent grabs. Okay. So if we go look at the script, we can probably start diagnosing this. I'm going to just open up all of them, open an external editor, see if that works first time. Looks pretty decent. Yep, all that's there. Perfect. I'm just going to open up every script. Double-clicking locks it in so it's not italicized. And we're just going to get all of these open so I can just quickly race through them. So, starting with events, this one we definitely don't need to touch. That's fine. We might have more events later when we do bow hit. Let's see. Here we got the bowstring, bow entity, arrow manager is on the server, so we don't need to worry about this one because it's not local. Arrow data, also on the server, not local. There was a question about improving this for per players. And I think we should do that. So basically, each arrow will have ownership to a specific player. So if you have multiplayer, each player will have like 3 arrows, let's say. I liked the way that we did it before, but doing it this way means that there won't be any hiccup because the player will own the arrow, and therefore when they immediately start drawing it, there's no ownership transfer. And to do that, we're going to come back here. So we'll leave this open, and I'm just going to leave a comment here and say, switch to using a map. Okay, and here we are in pre-start, arrow entity, props definition. Anything in here? This is just going to add it. We'll have to work on that as well in a minute. So those are just 2 related. Bow entity, here we go. And bow entity, this is the stuff that we really need to fix, which is, this is fine. This.entity.owner.set, when this line of code runs for the first time, when it transfers ownership to the player for the first time, this line of code will not run, which means this only runs the second time it is grabbed. So we need to move this down. And I am wondering, on grab start, clear timeout. We definitely had this working because we were getting things returning correctly. So I guess I'm not worried about this pre-start. I was concerned that pre-start might not run on a local script when it runs start. We can just quickly do this. Just type pre-start here. log that to the console, and now we can see how often pre-start's running. But we've done the switching of that, which it is an improvement. We'll go back to the desktop editor, and just quickly we're going to check that console log and see if that's behaving as intended. So I've turned simulation on, I hit play. We see that it's run twice so far. That's because that was on the bow string, if I'm not mistaken, and there's 2 of them. So I grab this. Ownership should have transferred and run that again, but maybe because we already own it. It's still a little bit laggy in my opinion there. Okay, so let's go ahead and stop that there. Pre-start did not run another time. Is there a way to transfer ownership of that back to the server? I think there is. How do we make sure this gets transferred back to the server? We're just going to go and do a temporary this.entity.owner.set to, and then we'll do server player, and which is world.getServerPlayer. There we go. Okay, control save. All right, let's see what happens here, and let's double check that that is the script that I think it is. This is saying it's the bow entity. So maybe it shouldn't be running more than once since there's only 1 bow. That's curious that it ran twice. So it must have run the first time and then it had ownership transferred after the world had started, which might explain why we had pre-start go off twice. Okay, clear. So now I'm expecting it to go off twice again because we're transferring ownership back to the server. World simulation on, there we go. And then we'll go ahead and click preview. And when I grab it, I expect it to transfer ownership again, and it doesn't. Run pre-start. No, not at all. I guess we could also test to see who the owner is. So let's start the world up again to transfer ownership back to the server, turn it off, go back in here. I'm going to turn this line of code off, and then instead we're just going to console log the owner. So this, console.log owner this entity.owner.get, and we want to check the if we just want to do .name.get, but that's going to return probably undefined for server player. Yeah, we'll do it anyway. I think it'll be fine. Hit control save, and back over here, clear, clear, clear. World simulation on, pre-start, and then user. That's interesting, isn't it? And there was 2 pre-starts and 2 users. That makes sense. Okay. Hit. Maybe it doesn't make sense. Play. Grab. Interesting. Nothing is happening. Okay. Now I want to make sure this script is actually set to local because I'm starting to have second doubts or second guessing it. So we go to the bow entity. Execution mode is set to local. It sure doesn't appear to be behaving like I'd expect a local script to. We set the owner to the server, which should have just transferred the ownership back. Not getting the name of the owner. Let's see. Let's rely on grab start. Let's ignore this whole pre-start thing. And in grab start, we are going to do console.log because we have control over grab start, and then we can do this.entity.owner.get.name.get. Okay. And let's see what happens in this grab start. Clear. And clear. World simulation on. And play. X Now we're not getting any messages on grab start. Ah, duh, we aren't grabbing the bow itself. We are grabbing the other thing. So, oh, so that makes sense. But does that explain the other stuff? Maybe. Maybe it does. Okay, so it seems like there's more work we need to do here. So let's ignore this one for now. Let's assume that this is set up nicely, but it's set up for grab start. And for this use case, we're grabbing the string. And so over here, we've got the bow string, which has the bow reference, it has the grabble reference, it has the diameter. We were transferring ownership of the bow reference, which hopefully is the entire bow. Let's check. Bow, is that the reference? Go to string 1. Is it referencing the bow? It is not. It's referencing the thing inside of the bow. So we also want to add a reference to the whole bow itself, which we didn't really need because we were going to grab the bow. Okay, let's fix the little bugs that I was worried about. So here on bow string, we needed to, oh, this one's already fine. Yep, this one's fine. It's setting bow reference owner before entity owner. Grabbable reference. The reason we didn't set the owner of that was because it should automatically transfer ownership when you grab it, but just to be on the extra safe side, we'll do another props dot grabbable reference dot owner dot set to player, and we'll just make sure everything's transferring ownership. And we're going to need to make that bow grabbable again so that we can verify that that has had its ownership transferred. Was there any other scripts that needed to change? Here we do. Invisible grab point on string. So this bow string entity was connecting the grab start from what? From the grabbable reference. Ah, got it. Okay. Let's remove this because this is connecting that grab start to transfer ownership of its bow reference and its owner. That makes sense. And then this one should transfer ownership of itself right here. Okay. And we'll move that to the very bottom. And I think we should not send a networked event until, oh, but then the grab start doesn't happen. So, okay, we're going to definitely need to send a networked event. It's weird, though, because it felt like that was working. Like there wasn't any problems with that, which is very curious. Because I might be thinking in code block logic, like maybe all of this code does run. I'm not sure. What we can do to find out is we can do console.log and call this step 1, and then Control-C, Control-V, Alt-arrow down, and change this to step 2. And the way it worked in code blocks, at least, is that when you ran this ownership transfer, the code below it did not run any longer. But for some reason, it did seem to get us an arrow. So that's peculiar. Let's see what else. We got return reference.owner.set is grabbable set to true, which we also set here on start. And all of this seems fine. Okay. So last thing to do is to make the bow grabbable so that we can actually transfer ownership of it. And clear one more time, switch back up here, change that to interactive, and world simulation on, play. Okay, so if we grab the bow first, we can then grab the string second, which will then teleport back in just a moment. We can see step 1 and 2 did go off. That is genuinely shocking. This still feels laggy to me. We can really see this lag if we grab the bow itself and walk around, and that's what we're trying to fix here. Wasn't that supposed to step 1 and step 2 run again when we grabbed it? That's peculiar, it's not running a second time. When we grab it, oh, there it is. Oh, it's when we grab this string. Got it, okay. Fine, 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 fine. Thinking, thinking, thinking. Oh, I wanted to continue testing. Okay, so My thought was, what if we keep grabbing it over and over again? Does it ever get better? Like, I'll just grab it a few times. Nope, does not improve. Okay, so the dummy checks, we're going to check that all the scripts are, in fact, locally scripted. Arrow manager doesn't need to be. Bow entity is local. Bow string is local. Invisible grab point is local. So everything is indeed locally scripted. And what could we possibly be missing? Thinking. I guess we need to. Oh, hi again. Transfer. Let's console log what the owners are for each thing, and see what that does. Okay, so. But it doesn't feel like it's behaving like a local script, which is bizarre to me. I almost want to leave and come back, but we've done that. I mean, this is a brand new, we left for a few days and came back, so what could possibly be preventing this from behaving like a local script? So I guess as an example here, let's start by getting this console.log, and then to give us kind of some timestamps, we're just going to do date.now, and that will give us a timestamp of when the start event has run. And I think we want to just quickly do a message in here with it. So we'll say start ran on grab point, and we'll call it the string grab point. Okay, control save. Let's give that a check, a whirl. And I also want to turn the bow off. Motion, animated. There we go. Okay. Clear. World simulation on. Okay, start ran. Perfect, as we would expect it to. Now I grab the string and start ran a second time. Fantastic. That is as expected. So theoretically, this is ownership transfer. Maybe it just looks super laggy on desktop. That's what I did determine last time. Let's jump into VR. I'm going to remove the console logs and see if we can't get this verified that it's behaving the same laggy way in VR. I'm going to remove the console log here and the console log there and there. Yeah, very peculiar. So many questions in my mind here on like how is this supposed to behave. I think what we could do to find out more is we could refer to the documentation. It's not the best in the world, but we can go to Horizon. Where are we going to find the docs? Where do they keep the docs these days? It's on the Learn website, maybe? Go to Learn. Go to... Come on. Scripting. Probably in scripting, right? And then here's local scripting, getting started with local scripting. So here's a section that we can check, because this definitely seems like it's behaving different than I would have expected. The distance, the signal charge, the decrease in the quality of the network connection, entity ownership, script execution mode. We set it to local. Ownership transfer, transferring ownership of an entity is about maintaining the source of truth. In regards to scripting, you can think of the entity ownership transfer. It does. When transferring ownership, state details are actually a loss. The script shuts down on the older client and then restarts on the new client. All of that makes sense, and we're not worried about that because we accept that it's going to be reset. Automatic ownership transfer. More when entity ownership automatic transfer one client to another player. Manual ownership transfer. This is what we're doing. I wonder if there's some other object we're forgetting to transfer ownership of for some reason. Definitely a lot of questions in my mind there, but I think the VR test is going to be the most important for us as our next step. So let's go ahead and turn simulation off, turn it back on, and grab out VR headset for this test. like maybe there is another object in there that we need to transfer ownership of. I'm almost thinking having a central object to do all the ownership transfer might make the most sense. Okay. There we go. And of course it's downloading an update. Well, that's gonna suck. So let's investigate further on the desktop editor because I don't know how long that update's gonna take. Back here in the desktop editor, let's see. So we've got the bow, we've got the string, we've got the string, we've got the invisible grabbable. All four of these are locally scripted. The bow return reference is not local. The arrow manager and arrow are not local. They shouldn't need to be. Bow return reference. So looking at all of this, we've got these internally that should have their ownership transfer. We have the bow classic model that should have its ownership kind of transferred when you grab the bow itself. The grabbable row reference. Maybe these are set to animated and we can turn that off to improve this. So we say not animated because we're not going to be moving these things. Not animated. And bow classic, not animated. What if it's just needing to turn off the animation on all these reference points so that they're not maybe running on the server somehow? Maybe. Just kind of guessing here in the dark. So string needs to be animated. Bow return reference does not need to be animated. Arrow manager does not need to be animated. Arrows do need to be animated. Okay. My headset did just boot up, but we're going to go ahead and test this, turning simulation off and back on, jumping into preview mode, and see, does that get better? No. Let's go to world simulation off, select bow, and make sure to change that to interactive, and try that one more time, world simulation on, play, grabbed it, still got lag, grab the string, still got lag, grab the bow, still got lag, I don't know what to tell you. Grabbing them over and over again. Alright, so the VR headset has booted up, we're going to switch back over there, give that a shot, that should teleport back in just a few secs. Alright, here we go. I've also just remembered that I need to get my controllers out. Okay. I was expecting to be gone, so I pulled out the batteries. But fortunately, thank you See Me Bro last time for showing that you press that little button to pop this thing out. There we go. We're in. Should only need one controller for the first little bit. I'll get the second controller out in a second. Oh, controller's updated. Of course it is. I swear. I miss the, well, the theoretical I miss. Theoretically, I would miss the Pro controllers because they were turned on all the time and should have just been updating automatically. But they didn't, and nor did the headset or the applications. You have it sitting on the charger. That was my understanding of that whole like charger setup, is to do the update. Anyway, it is, this one's done, so we can jump into Horizon, which it does look is called, oh no, it's not connected. All right. Neither of the controllers are connected. Sorry, it's just my hands. Come on, controller, there it goes. It does look like they've renamed it to Worlds. How interesting. I don't have a good place for that right there, because Meta Horizon Worlds. It seems like they're dropping the Horizon name everywhere. So curious. Okay. Loading in. Switching over to create. Continue, and testing world. All right. You should see my avatar appear momentarily. Jumping back over here. We'll zoom out. And ideally, what we're going to see is this look smooth. Okay, so I walk over, I grab this, and it is not smooth. Grab it again. Not smooth. Grab it again. Not smooth at all. I'm not sure how that's conveyed on the other side. You don't notice it when you're like right here, pulling back, firing the arrow. But if you had a smaller arrow, it would definitely be noticeable and problematic. So, gotta sort that out. Definitely gotta sort that out. What in the world? Yeah, because I did not notice it at all last time. And power options. So then the second thing that got me up and at 'em today to make this tutorial was, and I wish I could remember his name off the top of my head, and there it is, BZ mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, that the ownership had not actually been set. And so that's what we're going to test next, is to see if the ownership was setting at all. Somehow face tracking got turned on my camera, and I don't actually know how to turn that off. What is going on? Doesn't matter. I'll just close out of this. Okay, so I'm going to go and clear World Simulation off. And what we need to do... Sorry, Nalia, not right now, baby. I'll see you in a little bit. Sorry, guys. Okay, so we need to check that everything has its ownership actually transferred. So my understanding of how this should be working is on world start, if you've grabbed it in the previous instance before you hit like stop and reset, it should still maintain its ownership. So right here, I should be able to say console.log and then this.entity.owner.get, and that should be the name logged to the console, in which I put this on the grab point on the string. Okay, we'll just leave the bow as animated for now, since we're gonna need to grab it in a moment. Clear, simulation on. All right, so this has said player 4. That's must refer to this Laex 05, my avatar there. Entering preview mode. I'll go ahead and grab that and grab the string. Player 2. Did I forget to do name.get? I must have. Owner.get.name.get. My bad. Control save. Okay. But we can see that it did maintain ownership to the previous user when we restarted the world, which is what I would have expected to happen. So far things are behaving like we'd expect. Okay, so world simulation on. It's reporting user. I wonder if it's because I'm in build mode that it doesn't have that understanding of who I am, or if that was actually server player. So let's actually add another check so that we don't get these. So like if I turn it off and on, it still says user. Let's check to see if it is meaning Vidyuu or if it's meaning server player. To do that, we're going to do owner, so we'll say constant owner equals, and then we'll grab this, Control X, Control V, and then we can do this owner.name.get. But what we can also do is ask a question here before we display the name. And the way that works, this is just hacky, but you can do world.serverPlayer.get. Oh, sorry, that is get. That is the get. There we go. So get server player, and then we can say if this triple equals owner, meaning they are one and the same, then what we want to do is log server player, or, and I have to put a question mark there, my bad, question mark. So it says log server player if this is equal, or log the owner.name.get. Okay, so that should help us really clearly identify what's happening in here. Clear, and world simulation on, and it is saying server player. Okay, cool. Jump into preview, and we know that when I grabbed it, it did switch to Vidyuu, so that is behaving as expected. Well, slightly different than I would expect, to be honest. And then we don't get that start running when we grab and let go and grab it again, which is also as expected. Okay, so anyway, the point is we got some clarity here on what is what. Now that we've done that, and we need to test this for a lot of things, I think it makes sense to make this function available as a utility in the rest of our scripts. Let's close out of this, close out of that. Go to the desktop editor, scripts, create a new script, which we're going to call util, we'll just call it utils_func. That'll just be for now. Normally I like to have a good name for the util file to explain what type of utilities are in it, but in this case it's okay. So, okay, backspace, export constant, and this is the utils_func equals a JSON object. Then we need to define the functions. We'll say function, and this function is to determine, so this is a log player name. That's really what it does. So we need to pass in the name or the player, and it could be a server player. So we'll have that. And then log player name takes a capital player and curly braces, and then it's going to do what we did here, this whole line of code. Command C, and then Command V. And then I think what we can do to make this even easier for us is log entity owner name, and then we can, instead of passing a player, pass an entity, and then make sure that this is a capital entity. There we go. We can then delete player from here. And now that we've done that, we no longer need the this dot because the entity comes through as a parameter. We don't have the world server player. That is a bit problematic, I won't lie. What we will have to do is pass a this. This is not pretty code. So we'll pass a this, which is of type component. And it doesn't want to use this because that's a special one. So we'll say component. Okay. And then replace this with component. And then that'll get us access to world. Some really, really tricky business right there, but this is just for this, this quick test. All right, so log entity owner name. Now that we can use that everywhere, we can come back here and swap this out. And to do that easily, we're going to start by typing util function.log entity owner name. We pass in this dot entity. There we go. And we also need to pass in this so that it can compare it against the server player. And that's going to do this exact same thing. Okay, so now that that's set up, the next thing we need to do is check this for all of the objects. And this one has reference to the return reference, the front of bow reference, and the arrow manager. So we might as well add something else. So let's add another parameter to this called what is it? What is it? Which will be a string. And then this string is going to get appended to our log. And then just to make this more readable, we'll say constant log or display log me equals, and then we're going to start with the what is it plus colon space, and then plus, and then we grab this section here, which I do want to keep in parentheses because I think it'll look read cleaner. Control V and a semicolon, and that is going to create a nice little display for our console. So I'll put that display me there. And then right in here we need to pass in what is this, and this is the invisible grab point on string. So we'll say this is the grab point on string. There we go. And now we can duplicate this, Control C, Control V, and do this for the other options, which we have 3 more to do. So this dot props, excuse me, props with an S, dot arrow manager. Sure, why not? Arrow manager should be owned by the server. Might as well check it out. Arrow manager might be undefined. We'll add to this entity function here. we can say entity or undefined, and then right here we can say, put the whole thing in an if statement, say if entity is defined, and that's just going to make it a little bit easier. Obviously none of this code is meant to be kept, so I'm not making it very good. There we go. So this.props.arrowManager, now we can copy paste that for our next property, which is the front of bow reference, which I guess I can just copy these names right here and kind of mimic their parameter names. Control-C, Control-V. Last one is the return reference. Control-C, Control-V, Control-Save. Okay. So theoretically, are all of these getting ownership transfer except for Arrow Manager? On grab start, return reference has that changed. Front of bow reference is not being changed, so we should do that. Wouldn't that be crazy if that was the one thing that was the problem? We just needed to, oh my gosh, what if that was the problem all along? Just needed to ownership transfer that. Okay, clear, could be, it's possible. Clear, clear, we'll test it while we're at it. World simulation on, clear, play. All right, grabbing the bow, grabbing the string. Is that better? I don't think that's better. And we have it saying Vidyuu server player, server player, server player. So the other three are server players. Grabbing it a second time, they are not reporting. They're not reporting because the start event didn't go off. Are they? Is it better though? No, it's still laggy. Okay, we're going to assume that it's going to behave the same in VR. We do need to see that update. So I think we should move this logging into the grab start. And that way we can see this happening moment to moment, rather. Let's give that a shot now. Clear, clear, and world simulation on. Play. Grabbing bow. Grabbing string. Okay, so this ran before ownership transfer, and it still says grab point was already owned by Vidyuu. That's because when you grab a grabbable object, the ownership is transferred, so that wasn't surprising. And then we got server player, server player, server player. So the question is, if we let go of this and then grab the string again, what results are we getting? Escape, come down here, and we can see everything but the arrow manager was transferred in the second run. So that is working correctly, as anticipated. Okay, cool. So far, so good. Clear. Stop. All right, so with those ownerships verified, I'm going to comment these out, Control/. Now, it did take the second grab for the ownership transfer, but what we're trying to figure out is like what's missing, and that is a good start. So the question I think, the thing I think we should do next, now that we've verified these items, is inside the name of these items, make sure to note it so we can see what hasn't been checked. So the bow front reference, and if I select the invisible string grabbable, we can make sure that we're using the right things. Bow front reference and grabbable bow reference both had their ownership transferred. Is that right? Oh, we call that the return reference, which is the grabbable bow reference. Yes, that makes sense. Okay, so the grabbable bow reference, we're just going to go in here and add an underscore to the name to make it clear. And then we did the bow front reference as well. Okay, so those ones we know for sure have been transferred. And that also includes the invisible string grabbable. There we go. So with those three verified, we can now continue on our journey of figuring this out. Hi Shady and hi Pacey, great to have you. Thanks for joining this crazy debugging. Let's see, I opened my camera, but there it goes. I don't know how to turn this this face tracking thing off. Somebody on Windows knows. I'm not sure what I did to accidentally enable that. Related settings. Video settings. Why? Why are you showing this thing? It was never there before. So I'm not really sure. Doesn't look like there's an option over here. I must have pressed some key, like F key or something on my keyboard, spacebar. Took a photo. No, it's definitely not that. Barcode? Oh, it's trying to read a barcode. But you know what? That's better. Oh, wait. Oh, wait, there it is. Okay, never mind. We're good now. Sorry about that. Anyway, hello, welcome in. Great to have you, Shady. Great to have you, Pacey. Yeah, working through this buggy little local script. Local scripts are finicky. This is a thing, and it's no fun, but we're gonna get through it. So next up, let's move on to the bow itself, and we'll open up the scripts again, and we finish this one up. So let's grab a line of code here that we can copy paste. I think we're going to want both of these. Control C. Head on over to the bow reference. There it is. And on bow, we're also going to use grab start. I feel like that one works pretty well since we can get it multiple times. We'll Control / to turn that off, Shift Alt F to reformat. We'll need to import the utils function to get that running. And now we've got this dot entity, which is the bow itself. So we'll call that the bow group. And now we've got the arrow manager under the props, but what props do we have? We've got the return reference. We can see return reference ownership is transferred there. So return reference, Control C, Control V, Control save. And that is all of the things that this bow knows about. So this one should go pretty quick. And clear, build simulation on, play, grabbing the bow. Okay, so we got Vidyuu and server player, that's what we'd expect. And then if we grab it again, we get Vidyuu and Vidyuu. Perfect. So that one is working as expected. World simulation off. We'll check the bow. We'll give the bow that underscore to denote that we know that it's working as expected. And then the last item is the bow return reference, which is right here. And that one is also working as expected. Okay. So next up, we're going to go to the strings, which will have very similar code. So once again, copying that, Control / to comment it out, Control save, heading over to bow string. And in here, we've got the bow reference. We've got the, Control Z, the grabbable reference. And yeah, that's basically it. So we'll come on over into our grab start, import the utils function. Also, control period allows you to import. It's another nice one. And then we'll grab our props dot bow reference. I don't know that we need this, but we'll go, oh, the bow reference is the position. Anyway, we'll copy paste it, Control C, Control V. And then the last property was the grabbable reference. We can see the bow reference has ownership transferred, but the grabbable reference doesn't. And that's because it's a grabbable object, so it automatically has its ownership transferred, and it's running its own script, which we've already verified. So we should be seeing that all good when we run this code. Let's go ahead and Control C, Control V, Control save. Oh, and this is now not the bow group, this is the bow string. And each of these is different, so because there's two of them. But I expect both the codes to run identically, so bow strings, Control save. Okay, clear. And welcome in Dylan, welcome in Crow Black. This isn't a mod, this is the Horizon Worlds desktop editor. And we're trying to get this bow working appropriately. And yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and world simulation on. Go ahead and hit play. Go ahead and grab the bow. And right, grab the string next. Interesting. We're not seeing anything running. Oh, that's telling, isn't it? We're not seeing anything running. Okay, maybe we found the root of the problem. Okay, we grabbed both items. We click on the string 1 bow reference. The string 1 item. And we can see the string 1 bow reference. Visible. The grabbable reference is the invisible string grabbable. Yes, it is referenced. How peculiar. How peculiar indeed. So here we're connecting the local broadcast events. We check the grabbable reference, and we then connect the code block on grab start to the local grab start, and it appears grab start is not running because we didn't get any of these console logs. Not a single one. This could very well be the problem, but I guess we need to investigate further. So we're going to do console.log parentheses 1, Control C, Control V, Alt arrow in. This will be step 2, Control C, Control V, Alt arrow down, and this is step 3, and Control save. And if we get all 3 of those, we'll go into the utilities function and add some more console logs, but I don't think there's any problems in there. Clear. And world simulation on. We got 1, 2, and 1, 2, which makes sense because 3 goes off when you grab it. So now we're going to go grab the string. Nothing there. Grab the string. Nothing there. How interesting. So it's definitely connected to the event. We can see it's where the error is happening. Like MetaQuest, I thought this was, oh, not PS5 Horizon. Sorry, I see what you mean. Dylan, it's great to have you. You're from Horizon, the other Horizon. I see that ad whenever I search Horizon, so I know what you're talking about. But yeah, this is a completely different Horizon. It's the VR. I guess PlayStation has VR too. What the heck? But anyway, great to have you. Okay, so right here we've got 1 and 2. This connecting code block event does not appear to be working, which has me very curious. Grabbable reference. I wonder if somehow this relates to the ownership transfer. Let's try and find out more. When we click on the string, we can see that the string's grabbable reference is the invisible string grabbable, which is the object we are grabbing. So I suspect the console log has been, this has been connected, but then when you transfer ownership, maybe the connection is lost? That's kind of what I'm wondering. Let's test this code here by breaking it onto multiple lines. And by doing that, we can add another console log, which will be our step 3. So we'll go ahead and Control C, Control V, Alt arrow this one up to here. And then we'll change this to be step 4. And then backspace, Control save. Because I don't think this step 3 is happening either, which would mean that the code block event is somehow not happening. We could broadcast this event out, which might make sense. We could like send this event from the string. Maybe? We'll think about it. We'll think about it. Clear. And world simulation on. But yeah, this appears like we might have found the bug. Play. Grab the string, nothing happens. Okay. Yeah, this really does appear to be the problem. Thinking. Let's see. So you grab the bowstring. That doesn't trigger because the ownership is transferred, and so it's basically a different bowstring. What if, I got it. Okay, so we're going to clean this up. I'm going to use Control Z to clean it up back to how it was. Okay, and then we can remove all these console logs. Okay, and what we're going to do that I think will make a lot of sense is transfer the ownership of this from the grabbable reference. So this grabbable reference is going to transfer ownership, which will then allow it to connect to the correct grabbable reference because it'll rerun the script. So if we go back, okay, in the scripts and go to the invisible grab point on string and add references, Control C, Control V, and then name this the top string reference. It's not really a reference point though, it's the top string. We'll just call it that. And then Control-C, Control-V, and we'll call this one the bottom string, which we'll just use bot for short. Control-Save. And then now that we've got those set up, we can transfer ownership right here. So Control-C, Control-V, change this to top string, Control-C, Control-V, change this to bottom string. And that is how you debug. Okay, I'm very hopeful that this is going to be all we needed to do. Oh, we need to reference it, of course, which we have as string 1 and string 2. So on the invisible string grabbable, here we can reference the string 1 and the bottom string as string 2. There we go. Clear, world simulation on, and play. All right, grabbing the string. And it's instant, it's perfect. It's exactly as we expected. The arrow does not seem to have arrow ownership transfer, so that's why it's still lagged. But we can grab the, oh, the bow is, grab it a second time? No, still lagging out there on the bow side. So there's definitely more we need to look into, but this is so much better. So much better, okay. We're definitely making progress, this is great. And we're now getting Vidyuu server player Vidyuu, Vidyuu server player Vidyuu, and then it all becomes Vidyuu at the end, which tells us that it does eventually transfer ownership. There is some stuff we're going to have to do to make this work on first grab, but getting a lot closer. Now that we have ownership transfer happening here, I think, well, we've also done it over here. So let's see, we were on the bow string. We have now verified that all 3 of these are transferred on all objects. So we can now, we're going to delete this code here, Control-Save. We can now go over here, clicking on string, and changing this to underscore. And then we'll go to string 2, changing this one to underscore, and then remembering that we need to use the references. So we got the string 2 and string 1 bow reference. Need to have the underscore added, which is, if you've just joined us, how we're noting whether or not the ownership is correctly being transferred to the player. Okay. And that covers all of our scripts. So perhaps this bow classic is the thing we need to transfer ownership. It's the last thing that we haven't transferred ownership of. So let's go to the bow and reference this bow classic. I am going to right click and unlink instance root so that it matches the color scheme of everything else, because I don't really care about instance root linking in this case. But anyway, there we go. Bow classic is what we need to do next. So we'll just add that to our bow script. So on bow, Control-C, Control-V, we'll call this, oops, Control-Z, we'll grab the right one, Control-C, Control-V, change this to the bow model, which is of type entity, Control-Save, and then down here when we're transferring ownership, we will do owner.set, Control-C, Control-V for the bow model. There we go. I do think we can now delete these lines of code. It is very clear that that is working, and we can now delete that line of code, Control-Save. Heading back over into Horizon, we're going to now need to reference this bow classic on the bow, so we'll drop down on the bow model, selecting bow classic, clear. I'm going to go on bow classic and just give us that underscore to match our naming styles. Double checking everything has underscores. Yes. Okay. If that works, I am going to be mildly annoyed, I think. Play. Because I could swear that's not how it worked. Okay, so grab the other one, grab the other one, grab the other one. No, definitely did not fix it. It's still got that lag. And we have verified everything has been transferred. All right, I think I saw some messages coming in on the chat, so I'm going to go switch back over to camera. Hello! A lot of messages in there, Clip Crow. Oh, you do have a quest too. Very nice, Dylan. That's awesome. Titled Worlds on the Master Quest devices. Ouija, welcome in, welcome in. I was pointed your way for tutorials. Just thought I'd pop and say, I'm lurking. Haha. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, this bug is frustrating to no end. I gotta be honest. I am really trying to figure this out. We've done the ownership transfers. What else could possibly be causing it? I'm really wondering about the... We did need the arrow. We didn't do arrow. We didn't do arrow. That couldn't be it, could it? Could it? I guess it could be. So arrow entity doesn't... It does have a script on it that does near nothing. So totally safe to... Near nothing, not nothing. Okay, but if we try to transfer ownership of it, what's going to happen? The arrow comes in from where? Here it is. Arrow. The arrow is received right on this event down here. Your arrow is. Arrow ownership is not transferred. So let's give it a shot. We'll say arrow.owner.set to this.entity.owner.get. Control save. Did we save owner somewhere? We did not. That's okay. It's best not to call a .get if you can help it, so we might want to repair that and make it better later. For now, we're just trying to see if this is the fix. And world simulation on, play, grab, grab, grab. You need to grab everything twice, but still, no, nothing. This is perfect, though. Look at this. The arrow's in line, the string's in line. I mean, that is exactly what we would have hoped for. Like, that's perfect. It's just that bow, which is so frustrating, because it's... Everything else is good. What's wrong with the bow? Is there possibly something else? Is there possibly something else? It does tell us we cannot transfer ownership of the arrow because it's not running a local script, so I think it's safe enough. It is safe enough to make this local. We really shouldn't. We like really shouldn't. But I guess if we did make it local, no, we can't make it local. What are we thinking? We can't make this local. I think we just got to deal with the error hitting the console. Like, it's just a dumb error. It's not like it's going to stop any problems. So when you see this error appear, it's telling you it can't transfer ownership of non-local script. So it continues running on the server, which is fine because that script isn't actually running. It's not doing anything. I am so perplexed. I keep accidentally opening the bug reporter. Oh, darn it. Delay on chat is not as high as you think. I'm just not looking at it because I'm trying to solve it. I'm sorry. Yeah. Let's see. Oh my goodness. And sorry, Crow, I just don't have the mental capacity to read all of that text. And I think it's all off topic, so I wasn't that worried. But and you guys were talking, so that was fine too. But let's see. Oh, I've done this so many times before. I mean, what could possibly be the difference? Do we need to try something simpler? You grab the bow. You own the bow. We've done all the children. Do you want to get rid of this stuff here now that we're done with it? Nice utility for what we needed it. We don't need it anymore. We can delete this utilities file. The arrow is working. Like, we transferred ownership of the arrow and it worked. I guess we could add the underscore here to get it in line with the string. Like that worked. The arrow manager is not being referenced from anything for anywhere. The bow is held in your hand and the string is chasing it. The ownership should still be owned by the player though, even when you let go of that string. Like, what's going on, string one? Why aren't you able to keep up with your invisible reference? I don't know. I kind of want to try something a little different. It'll be hard for you to see what's happening, but I'll do my best. So over here, we're going to switch the Laex 05 to be an editor, and I'm going to write this same script, not the whole thing, just a piece of it in code blocks, and see if it just works over there. I've been saying this for years, but I've stopped saying it in the last year or so. They never finished local scripting. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so VR headset. Let's get this. Okay, just reading your message, the most recent message, Black. Did you ever figure out how to fix the flying function? Because my swords have stopped working as soon as they switched over to the desktop editor thing. I'm not sure. You might need to check your player settings to make sure that the custom player movement is enabled. That's probably the most likely bug. The one thing I kind of wish we had done was duplicate this arrow. Control D, Control D. There we go. Now there's 3 of them. Okay, I'll be in momentarily. There we go. Create, continue, edit. Alright, here I am. So, I forgot to start the world simulation. World simulation is on. Okay. Grabbing bow. Lagged. Grabbing string. Oh, whoa, wait. It's working. Wait, it's working. What? Oh my gosh. Wait a second. Jump into preview mode. Grab this. Grab this. Grab this. Grab this. Not working. Totally working in VR. Return to creation home. Is this a leave and... Was this a leave and come back issue? Was this a leave and come back issue? Oh my goodness. If this is fixed by leaving the world and coming back, I swear. Close out of AI, jump into play mode, run over and grab the bow, grab that, grab that. No, it just doesn't work on the desktop editor, but it totally works in VR. Okay, sweet. Let me finish the test out in VR. Oh my gosh. Okay. Whoa. Okay. Here we go. I got it. It's so perfect. Oh my gosh, it is so perfect. Woo! Nailed it. Having 3 arrows is nice, so you can see your other ones. I love that. Oh my goodness, so good. Definitely some work I need to do to get better at being an archer, and some things could be improved for sure. Oh my goodness, we're finally there. We can actually move on. Oh, that was so frustrating. Oh, that is so frustrating. Power options, power off. I can't believe it's a desktop bug. we'll report it, even though I don't feel like it's ever gonna get fixed, but maybe it works in publish mode. So crazy. I see Dylan says you look like 50% like Mark Zuckerberg. What? That's too funny. That's too funny. Sorry. I'm debating whether to humble brag. If you check our second channel, there's an interview I did where I interviewed Mark Zuckerberg on a panel. It was fun. Anyway, humble brag. It wasn't humble. Or maybe it was. I don't know. Oh my gosh, we did it. We fixed this bug though. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Oh boy, that was great. So with that bug fixed, we can now move on to better things. And what I wanted to test while we were at it was if we go to meta.com, this one, there's a feature that allows you to preview your world on the desktop. And I just want to see, does this actually work on mobile/desktop? Preview version 0. Okay, here it goes. Ah, yeah. Okay, so not going to admit on stream that I have dad issues. Sorry, Dad. But I totally told my dad, and he was not impressed. And I was like, but Father! Anyway. Okay, so here we are in the desktop. And there it is laggy, but then we know that if we grab it, it becomes less laggy, and we do the grab twice, and it should just work. And it's not working. So this is definitely a bug that extends to the desktop environment. So peculiar. So it's definitely extending beyond the desktop editor and also into the web view. I'm wondering if it has the same problem when you play on your phone. So I don't actually know how to test a world on my phone. I know it's a feature. I think the feature is inside the desktop editor, actually. Let's see. How do you do this? Switch to VR. There should be a test on mobile or something. 3 dots. Preview device. We could switch to preview mobile, but here's preview. Copy preview build link. Send preview build link to Meta Horizon app. Okay, so that should send it to my phone right here. See if it works. I've never done this before. Kind of exciting. I don't know where it would appear. Notifications? No, not there. Maybe it didn't send it to my app. A lot of things in Horizon are broken. Like not even just like it is the worst. It is the worst. But no, I can't find it. There was that link though. If I can copy and paste the link, that would be sick. So let's try that. Copying link, heading over to the internet, going to Discord, going to private message. I wish myself. Is my wife in here somewhere? Let's see. Is BZ a friend of mine? Yes. Sorry, buddy. Just abusing you because these tutorials been for you. So let's go Discord, check that link, selecting link. Okay. Heading back over to camera view. Hello again. This page is not available. Reload. What? Did I mention Horizon is insanely broken? Delete message. Oh, that's frustrating. Well, I can't test it on my phone without publishing it, so that might be like an end-of-the-road test. Preview device mobile, just in case. Apple iPhone 15 versus a Samsung Galaxy. Interesting. Yeah, we'll give it a go. World simulation on and play. All right. So we walk around, we grab it, we grab it, we grab it, and we walk back and forth. We still have the same lag, but we're actually in the desktop editor, right? Like we didn't actually test it on an iPhone, so I don't trust that. Cool. Okay, so I get it. I get it. Everyone hates light mode, but I like working outside and you literally can't see if it's not light mode. So that's why I've been using light mode everywhere, is because I work outside and you can't see your computer screen without light mode. So don't hate on light mode. Like, I love dark mode, but sometimes you need to see the light. That's funny. Okay. So there were a lot of features I'd like to add to this bow and arrow. Now that we've fixed the local animation bug, like, I really wanted to make this mobile friendly, but I don't really know how. So that's like an optional thing. I really wanted to make it smaller. I think we can just select everything here except for the arrows and select the bow. And then we can grab the scale tool and zoom in, and then grab the center scale point, and we can just scale that to, like, yeah, 0.8, 0.7. That should do good, and I don't think that'll break anything. We'll try that. World simulation play. All right, get out of this. Get out of this environment. I want to preview as I'm on web. There we go, or none. There we go. World simulation off, world simulation on, and play. There we go. Grabbing bow, grabbing string, grabbing bow, still laggy, but whatever. And totally feels a little bit more like the right size of bow and arrow, I think. Yeah, still maybe a little big, but it's kind of a fantasy bow, so that seems fine. Okay, so smaller, done. All right, so then this next thing, not for Discord. Okay, I mean, I'm sorry. My eyes couldn't take it. They hurt. My eyes hurt. Switch to using a map. Arrows. And so we're going to call this the arrow map. And then this is going to be equal to a new map of type entity with an entity array. And then parentheses to create it. And so now that we created this arrow map, we can then replace this with the arrow map, Control Save. And now that we're using this arrow map, I think it's pretty clear how this should work. But basically, I actually wrote the code for this earlier in Discord. If we head over to Discord, and is this stuff new? 430, that's not new. This would be in creator support, I think, or general chat. Were we in? Where did I post that code? Where did I post that code? Maybe it's in creator support. Creator support, jump in. Here it is. Okay, so I could just copy this. I'm just going to copy this. I'll tell you what it does. And paste. So Shift-Alt-F to reformat. So the first thing we need to do is get the arrow, the set of arrows. So we'll call that arrows equals, and then go into arrow data, and then we go to arrow map.get, and then we need to get the map of arrows for our specific bow. So we need to define inside the properties panel a bow, which we can do like this. And so this is type prop types dot entity. Okay. And now that we've defined the bow, it wants us to verify that the bow is real before we use it. So we can say if parentheses props dot bow. There we go. And curly braces. And then select all of this. Alt arrow up. There we go. And now that we have arrows, we can then say, okay, if the arrows equals undefined, it means that there is not currently an array of arrows for this specific bow. We then need to create that array of arrows. So we say arrows equals a new array. And then we can go into the arrow map and set for that bow that set of arrows. So there's now an array of that as arrows. And then we can add to that array of arrows with this dot entity. Okay, that's pretty cool. Now this is where I like to do a little talk to anyone who's coming from code blocks. And I'm going to use my hands because I think it helps. And so we have this idea of an array. So if you come from code blocks, you had on a list, and like the list kind of was just a list of things, and when you were done with it, it disappeared. But arrows is an array, and what an array is it's like a reference to one of these cubicles. And so when we set inside the map the arrows, it's actually setting a reference to that cubicle, which is why after setting the reference, we can actually modify that cubicle and it affects the map that's been saved. So it's not just data in the array, it's an actual reference to a specific set of data. So that's very important part of this and how this works and why it works. Okay, so now that we got that set up, we do need to reference the bow on the arrow. And so we've got our bow here. We'll select our arrow. Scrolling down, we can now select the appropriate bow. There we go. And then I'm going to just delete these. And then we'll duplicate the one that's actually been set up correctly. Control D, Control D. There we go. And something weird's happening. Arrow Manager Entity has it. Oh, right, because we haven't set that final up to use. So the arrow manager needs to use this correctly now that it's a map. And so here we were going in to do all of this. Oh yeah, so on arrow data, we do need to know the last index. Now fortunately, last index is now specific to the bow, so we can actually remove this from arrow data, and we'll hit Control Save. Heading back over to arrow manager, we can now make this a property inside of the arrow manager, so last index equals 0, and then here instead of going to arrow data.last index, we can just replace that with this .last index. So Control C, and then Control V, and right here we need to get our array of arrows, and most interestingly, these arrow entities are being added in pre-start, which is guaranteed to happen before the start method of everyone else, which means over here in start, we can actually set our arrows and say arrows is equal to an array. We need to define what it is. So we say it's an entity array. And then down here on start, we can say arrows equals, and then we go to the arrow data dot arrow map dot get for this dot entity. So for this bow, we're checking to get the arrow map, but in case it's undefined, we add question mark, and then square brackets, makes it an empty array. This would be really problematic if this happened. We're just going to assume that there's always going to be arrows for every bow, and this will never happen. But in case it does, it doesn't break. Now over here, we can now swap this out with this dot arrows. There we go. Control C and Control V. Yeah, there we go. So that will do it. Now every bow will have its own set of arrows. So as long as you duplicate the bow and its set of arrows, those will work together. And I think to make that very clear, it is wise to select our arrow. This is all 3 arrows. Our hierarchy is not working. Okay, there, it fixed itself. So select all 3 arrows. We can then move that into position. We are getting an issue with the properties panel there. Not sure why. But we'll delete these 2 and just move 1 and then duplicate it again. And if we select the bow, we can actually get the coordinates. I'm going to right-click, copy position, select arrow, right-click, paste position, and then move it to be on the ground, I guess. So maybe just off to the side a little bit on the ground. Let's go 5. Oh no, wrong way. Control Z. 5.25 is fine. And then go minus 0.2, minus 0.5. There we go. And then put that down on the ground at 0.25. There we go. All right, so we got our arrows there, and we can now duplicate that to have 3 of them. Control D, Control D. And are those actually on the ground? They are not. I made a mistake. Control Z, Control Z. I should have set this to just over. Let's go down closer to the ground so we can really see it. And this position is going to go to 0. That really is basically on the ground. 0.05. 0.3. Nice. Okay, and then Control D, Control D. So theoretically, later on, when I want to have more of these, I can select all of this and then duplicate it and get all those things and all that stuff so that each player will have their own set of 3 arrows. All right, world simulation on, play, and that should work just as before. Grabbing the bow, grabbing the, do the thing. We don't have an arrow. Okay, there is an issue. Error handling event. Cannot read properties of undefined. This is because of that bug where I mentioned that every arrow is going to have a bow. It is assigned a bow. Arrow manager, it is assigned bow. And bow is the thing that's getting the... Right? Okay, what did I mess up? Oh, it's the arrow manager. Ah, I made a big mistake. Okay. So the requester is where we get the arrows from. So I big dummy. Big dummy I was. I thought this was running on the bow like an idiot. I'm so dumb. Alt arrow down. We're going to need to set this arrows every time, which is right here. So just cut this out. Control X, and then Control V. Oopsie. Control Z, Control Z, Control X, Control V. There we go. We can actually delete this, which will give us better results if we delete this question mark, because now it's going to have this possibility. If I write constant in front of it, you'll see that it could be undefined, which will be very useful in a moment. We can also now delete this dot arrows on start, and we will need to get an index, which we'll get set up in just a moment. So now arrows is relative to the specific requester. So instead of getting this dot entity, we need to swap this dot entity with the requester, which is the bow, and then the index will get set up. But what we need to do is add an if statement that says if the arrows are defined, then we do stuff. So if it's not defined, we don't do anything. There we go. All right, so then we've got this dot last index. So we need to get the last index. To do this, we're going to create another map, Control C, Control V, and this will be called the index map. And index map will be an entity to a number, and there is no array. It's just entity to number. And then down here, we can export the index map. And then to keep these in the same order, I'm going to Alt arrow down and Control save. Fantastic. All right, so now to utilize this, we now need to say index equals, and then to get this dot last index, we go to arrow data dot index map dot get, and then we need to get for the requester. Now this could be undefined because we don't set it by default like we do with the arrows, and so this will default to 0. We can then put parentheses around this to make it easier to read, and then we add 1 to that value. We then mod it with the length of the arrows, which basically means when it reaches the length, we return back to 0. And then we need to update last index to the new index, which we do by saying arrow data dot index map dot set for the requester. We set it to be the new index that we just calculated, and there we go. Now here we say constant arrow equals this dot arrows. We just need to remove the this dot because we have the arrows right here, and we're done. Okay, that should be working. Clear, clear, and one more clear. World simulation on, preview, give that a shot. All right, so grabbing this, grabbing the string, waiting a moment. Wait, there's no arrow. Grabbing the string, still no arrow. Oh no! Oh no! Oops. See some messages coming in there, Crow. Sorry, not a moment to spare at this second. I'm just trying to think, what did I do wrong? I'll look in a moment. Okay. Arrows index. Index. If arrows. Arrows must have returned undefined. Arrow is requested. And arrow is set on start. If props.bow. Arrows.push. There's a few places where this could be going wrong. Arrows equals undefined. Arrow map.set for this.props.bow. The set of arrows. Arrows.push this.entity. Okay, but I suspect it's going wrong here. But why? Arrow index map.get, we question mark to default to 0, and then we +1, mod arrows length, index map dot set requester to index, and then arrow equals arrows index. Something tells me this isn't happening. So let's do console.log and then parentheses, arrow requested, and then semicolon. Oh! Wait, no, that's not it. Man, I was really hopeful there. Control C, Control V, Alt arrow down, and then this will be arrows is valid. Well, see, I'm checking if it's truthy. So what I was thinking was, oh, it could be like falsy, like index map 0 would be considered falsy, but this arrows is an array, and the array is definitely not. Is an empty array considered falsy? Let's add something here. Plus colon space plus arrows dot length. Maybe the arrow's length is indeed falsy. Okay. Let's check this out. Clear, clear, clear. World simulation on, play. Grabbing the bow, grabbing the string, grabbing the bow, grabbing the string. Arrow's request is undefined, although it did re-execute the scripts after we joined the world. So let's turn it off and on again. Preview, grab the script. Arrow requested is returning undefined. The requester is the bow, is it not? Bow, oh, it's not. Of course it's not. Of course it's not. Of course it's not. Silly, silly, silly. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I wrote this like 3 days ago, so I don't really remember everything, which is part of the problem, but we have the invisible grabbable passing itself as the reference, not the actual bow itself, which means we need to add to this invisible grabbable a reference to the bow so that we can utilize the bow. So now we can go down to where we request the arrow. Should be, your arrow is, it's before that. Here it is, send network request. The requester is not that. We want to go to props.bow, and then instead of calling this requester, we're going to go to events and change the name of this to be the my bow group. In fact, we'll just call it bow group. There we go. That will make sense. And then we can change everywhere to bow group, so it all matches up nicely. Change this to bow group. This dot props dot bow. It doesn't like that it could be undefined. So we need to say if arrow manager is defined and props dot bow is defined, control save. And then on the receiving side, the arrow manager, we're going to change this from requester to bow group, and we're going to change it up here to bow group, and we're going to change it right here to bow group, and then we can change it down here everywhere to bow group, which is a lot of work, but it is better to have it readable and understandable, so I make less mistakes. Okay, cool. Now, last thing to do is on the grabbable reference, we need to reference the bow. Invisible string grabbable reference the bow. Nice. All right, so that should do the trick. Simulation on, play, grabbing bow, grabbing arrow. Okay, well this time we got a length of 3, and it says arrow is valid, but then why didn't we see the arrows picked up? Jump into preview mode and try that one more time. Didn't see an arrow. No arrow. Arrows is valid. Why aren't you giving us an arrow? Interesting. Arrows is valid. Clear. Well, we've made it further along. That's great. So we got a length, an array of arrows, and we know that this if statement is running. So then arrow equals arrows at index. Let's move this down here and then add arrow index as our console log, and then plus the index, control save. And we want to make sure it's a 0, 1, or a 2. Your arrow is arrow. We pass the arrow. Send network event to the bow group. Oh, we sent the network event to the bow group, not the requester, because we, of course, control C, There was a reason we passed in the requester. Of course there was. We need to swap this with requester, and then Control C, and then paste this right here where we actually do need it, and then come up here and add a parameter to the events, and we'll go comma request, oops, comma requester is a type entity, Control save. Then over here we're going to receive that inside of this. Oh, this is where we're sending it. Okay, comma requester is this dot entity. Okay, now that one's fixed. And then last but not least, we have over here where we have the payload, which receives the requester, which is a type entity. And then over here, we need to pass the parameter into the method, and that is payload.requester. Control save. Okay. Going too fast. My apologies. World simulation on, but hopefully it makes you feel better, because I'm sure we all make these mistakes, and if you don't, well, good job being perfect. But yay! Now it's working. Launching arrow, launching arrow, launching arrow. Fantastic. Okay, cool beans. We get this cannot transfer ownership. I am kind of wondering if there's any way we can fix this, because it does drive me nuts. I mean, it absolutely drives me nuts that we're going to get that error forever. I believe if we transfer ownership of it, it's going to make the script, because it's only running pre-start, so I think it'll be okay. Like, let's close out of all these scripts, because we're done with it, more or less. Okay. I'm pretty sure it'll be okay if we make it locally scripted, because it's all done on world start, and then the ownership transfer, like, you don't have this world simulation off and on button, which is the real problem. So arrow entity execution mode local. We'll check that that changed. Okay, and now we won't get that error, which will make me a happy, jolly soul. Play, grab, yay, no error. And we can keep grabbing, no errors, still no errors, still just keep trying. Yeah, all good. Cool beans. All right, I do want to remove this console log, so that was in the arrow manager. We'll then remove that now that it's working. Control save. And we're just going to take a moment to pause and read your messages. Whew. Welcome in. We're improving that bow from part 1. And just reading some messages here from Crow Black. They're a little over their heads. Back when they first showed, oh, the Builder Bot. Yeah, Builder Bots are pretty cool. Well, you got to understand that Horizon is owned by Meta, and Meta is a company that has a lot of legal scrutiny, a lot of public scrutiny, so they can't just give us everything. They have to really wrap it all up into a nice, pretty package. So the feeling of gatekeeping is real. There is, of course, VR chat, which I feel like is a, I used a word yesterday I thought was pretty appropriate, but unhinged. So there is VR chat. Like, there are options if you want something that is going to give you complete control. We don't have that obviously in Horizon because it's meant to be a lot more closed ecosystem for safety, more like legal protection. But anyway, good stuff. Okay. Whew. So now that we've got multiplayer better supported, let's see. Fix the arrow thing. Was there any other to-do list? I think we wanted to get this to stick into things next. A heads-up display with a power meter would be nice. When I was in VR, I couldn't really pull back all the way. I'm like, if you go like this, I almost like that. But if, let's say you're a young kid and you can only pull back this far, it really needs to give you more power just from a little pull, not from a full, like, actual archer pull. So I am thinking we go and make that power much better. And that's going to be on our launching, which I believe is launched from the invisible grab. Here it is. And so we were saying Maximum power was set to 40. I don't think you can reach that from a regular poll in VR. So we were doing 40 times. Let's multiply this by 80. Press Control Save. And I'm going to create a new note card for like tests that we need to do. So out of note cards, so printer paper we'll have to do. So this is going to be our VR test, because I just don't want to keep hopping into VR as it's a lot of work. VR tests. We need to test the pull strength, and that should do good. There was a problem with like the accuracy, but it felt more like a real archery arrow. There's a YouTube short that I keep getting recommended of a guy pulling actual arrows, and he points out how in a lot of video games you have to like tilt it up, and there's this like massive arc, but that's not realistic. It's more like you shoot just above the target and it falls down. So I like that it's realistic. I think that's really cool. What I'd like to do like as the very next thing, because I think it's one of the most important parts about archery, is we need it to stick into things, which is insanely difficult. Did I say insanely difficult? Because it is. But we're going to pull it off. It won't be that hard. I'm saying both of those things back to back. I must be crazy. So when you launch an arrow, the arrow is now locally scripted. So that's phenomenal. What we can do with our arrow is add this if statement here, which is going to say if the this dot entity dot owner dot get triple equals the world dot get server player, that will then allow us to say only run this code when, oops, Control-Z, Alt arrow up, only run this code on world start, like the real world start. And then we can now think about this script, now that the arrow is locally scripted, as having an opportunity to use a, sorry, my brain is farting, a raycast. That's what we need, a raycast. And I want to copy paste this, so we'll just go Control X, backspace, Control C, Control V, and then raycast goes there. Okay, I realize a mistake now. And now that we've got this raycast here, we need to transfer ownership of it, of course, which is going to happen in this else. So right here we'll type else, so then we know it's owned by the player, and that's when we go props.raycast.owner.set to this.entity.owner. And this right here is now going to be used multiple times, so we're going to create a constant. So we'll say constant owner equals, there we go. And then we can say owner, and then down here we can say owner, fantastic. So now that we've transferred ownership of the raycast, we now have this opportunity to want to stick into things when launched, and that's kind of a tricky one. I'm thinking about it, because I really want this to run somewhere else, but I also feel like if you speed target, like if you run, you want all three of those to stick. You don't want them like only the last one to stick. You really want to be able to go pow, 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 and actually have it functioning. So every arrow needs to be in charge of its own loop, which means it needs to know when it's been fired, and then it can loop while it's been fired, and then it needs to at some point stop running the loop. Like I'm imagining you get like that, and you let go, and it goes flying for like a mile, obviously not a mile, but like a half a mile or 500 meters or something. And that's going to take a while to get there, but it still wants to hit a target and lock into it. So the amount of time it's flying and the amount of time this loop is running should be based on the momentum, this like distance traveled. So that's what we're going to look at, is distance traveled. This does mean that if it falls off the world, well, that'll be problematic. And what we're going to do is create an on update. So we'll say on update parentheses with a delta time, and then that's a number, and then curly braces. Okay, and we did an on update in the past, so you might remember this one. And we really only need to connect on update if the if it's owned by a player. Okay, so we say if, oh, we already did that. We already did the if statement. We're in the else, and now we can say connect local broadcast event, and the broadcast event is received from world.onUpdate. We can then receive that with the payload. The payload holds delta time, which is a number. And then we can arrow function to the right and call the onUpdate, local onUpdate, and pass payload dot delta time. And I like semicolons, so I'll add one here and I'll add one there, and then I'll Shift Alt F to reformat and make that pretty. Nice. Okay, so now onUpdate is running, and what we need to know is if it's flying. And I almost feel like we should be able to do something like if parentheses this dot entity dot velocity, this dot entity dot as physical entity dot velocity, and then say if that's greater than 0.5. What is velocity? Is it a vector? It is a vector. Okay, so velocity dot magnitude. Wait, what? Oh, velocity dot get. There we go. Velocity is it a number? No, it's a vector. Okay, and then dot magnitude. Nice. Dot get. No, magnitude parentheses. Got it. Okay. Nice. And then we can check to see what the magnitude of the velocity is, which will give us the meters per second that it's traveling. And if it's traveling more than 0.15 meters per second, really more like 0.25 meters per second, it's got to really be hauling, then we can run this, we'll call this fire raycast. Fire ray. For now, we're just going to do console.log, and then we're just going to log this velocity so we can see what that actually looks like. So we'll just do Control-C. This is not pretty, but for now that'll function, so we can do the test. Jumping back into the desktop editor, clear, and world simulation off and on again, and then play. We're going to go fire an arrow and see what we get. Okay, I'm going to wait for a second for that to reload. 5, 4, 3, 2, and there we go. Okay, so we're going to pull that back to there and drop. There we go. So that went, and the problem is it went off the edge, so it's now picking up speed. I guess, will it hit a terminal velocity at some point? Or, okay, in the real world there's a terminal velocity, y'all. And I think it would have hit it by now, but anyway, we'll go ahead and stop. So it fell off the world, and then it just kept tracking. Do we care? Do we care if that happens? Like, theoretically, if you're implementing this in a world, there should be walls around the world. Right? Right? Let's do one more. World simulation on. This time I won't pull it back as far. It didn't feel like it was that far. Maybe that new value is too much. Okay, and that fell off the world again. Stop. Let's see. Okay, so when we launch from here, we're multiplying by 80. Let's drop that down to 60, Control Save. So 50% more power rather than double the power. Clear. Run simulation on, clear, play, grab, wait a second, and okay, we're gonna not launch it with too much power just for the test. Okay, there we go, and that's going the wrong direction. There we go, X. Okay, nice. And then that stops, and then it should stop running, which it did. And so if we check that little one out, we had values ranging from 10 meters per second when you first launched it, and then it fell all the way down to 0.3 meters. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's the minimum, isn't it? Math.max. Oh no, the minimum is 5. Okay, so we still got something. Yeah, okay, cool. So 40, I feel like 40 might be too much. I'm not really sure. No, it's not. It's not. It's fine. We should try to hit 40, but it's okay. We'll come back to that when we get into the VR tests. So I'm going to add to our VR test notes. We need pull strength and kind of like distance. Distance, question mark. So now that we've got that set up, let's see, where were we? We are in this loop, and we need to make sure to fire the raycast. So to fire the raycast, we're now going to do props.raycast.as parentheses raycast gizmo dot raycast with overrides, raycast parentheses, and then we can just provide the location to fire from. Now we want to fire this from the front of the arrow. I'm almost thinking that every arrow is going to have its own, so we don't need an origin. That seems possible. Is there a raycast without? Is there a raycast without overrides? I don't think so. So I guess what we'll do then is say we have basically already assumed that the raycast is defined. We can then right here type raycast, which is props.raycast.position.get, and then we need the direction, which is props.raycast.forward.get, and I think that's it for the options we need. And then we do need to get the out, so we say constant ray hit equals, and that should be the hit. Yep, okay. We can then say if parentheses ray hit, curly braces, then we can do stuff. So we still need to do stuff. Before we get to that though, I want to get the raycast set up correctly. We're going to delete these two arrows since we're going to be making some modifications to the arrow. And then in this arrow, we need to add a raycast gizmo to the tip. So clear, let's go grab a build gizmo raycast gizmo. And there it is. Hold that out. Okay, we're going to shrink this down so it's easier to see. 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. Nice. That looks like it's almost in the exact right spot. Let's grab the position of this arrow, copy position, and paste that on the raycast. And paste. And then we're going to slide that forward until it's just in front of the arrow tip, right there. And I'm kind of debating how close to get. I think that'll be fine. Now we need to move that into the arrow group. So we're going to just drag that inside. And now the arrow needs to reference that raycast. So we'll just drop down and select raycast. Fantastic. Okay, so that has been set up. We do want to set the raycast values to be a lot shorter. So rather than casting for 2000, we're going to cast for just we'll do 0.15 meters for now. We want to collide with objects tagged both. I guess if there's a player, we do want to hit them too. And that should do the trick. Control save. All right. Heading back into the script, we can now say if ray hit. What we want to know is we really just want to stop the arrow in place. So we can say this.entity dot as parentheses physical entity dot, we want a zero force, there's a zero velocity, there we go, Control C, Control V, and we also want to turn it off, which is dot gravity enabled false. Might have to do a dot set, gravity enabled dot set to false. Okay, and then I feel like there's one more property, which is this dot entity dot as interactive. What do they call that? As grabbable entity. Maybe it's not a dot as at all. It's a dot. Let's see. Interaction mode. There it is. And then dot set to entity interaction mode dot invalid, that should turn it off, so it can't be interacted with. So theoretically, it hits something, and we're done. And like in the future, we could send event to damage player or notify target. Yep. All right, clear. So hopefully this will now stop when it hits the target. One more. There it goes. Okay. World simulation on. Play. Grabbing. We're gonna walk really close, and then I need it. Okay. Don't judge me. And drop it. Oh, it did stop in the ground, so it somehow got enough angle to stop in the ground. That's not bad. And let's grab that string again. Don't know if I can get this to work correctly. Oh. Interesting. Try that again. And run. Oh, there's only the one arrow, I forgot. And fire. Oh, it didn't really stop there. Oh, because it's not collidable for the first second? Is that the problem? No, that can't be it. Okay, let's get a few more arrows. Control D, Control D, Control D, Control D. Okay, there's 5 arrows now. And world simulation off, world simulation on, play. This would be a lot easier if I was in VR. I might have to go into VR. Okay, and X. Oh, that's interesting. Invalid interaction choice set in interaction. I used invalid. I guess invalid is invalid. Oh, right, we weren't modifying those properties anymore, were we? What were we doing? Let's check right here. When we get the arrow, we're setting physical velocity to 0, gravity enabled to false, collidable set to false. Okay, owner set to true, collidable set to false. I mean, that is one way to turn it off when you get assigned an arrow. Control C. Let's go to here and do the same thing. Same thing, Shift Alt F. And this is now this dot entity. Control C. Control V, Control V. Okay, so this entity has physical entity, this entity has physical entity, gravity off, velocity zeroed. Maybe do it, yeah, that's fine. Entity.collidable.set to false. Okay, that setting collidable to false basically makes it non-grabbable, which is why we're doing that. And the arrow is never grabbable in the first place. It was always just animated, right? So if I select it, it's not a grabbable. Yeah, it's just interactive physics. Okay, totally fine. World simulation off and on again. Play, give that a shot. Grab, run on over here. And grab the string and fire. Totally missed. And gotta run. Okay. I might need to go into VR so we can actually test this. Okay, and fire. Oh. It totally stuck into the ground, but then like floated downward. It's like it needs to zero velocity a second time. I feel like the zero velocity didn't zero velocity it well enough. That would make more sense than the gravity not working. Although I'm kind of wondering if we do this, if that would work. Like maybe the order is what's important here. So if we change the order of that so it zeroes or it turns off gravity and then it zeroes velocity, maybe. Clear. Clear. Give that a shot. World simulation on. Preview. And let's grab that. Okay. And we're just going to lightly drop that in the ground. Oh, it's still syncing. So weird. Okay, let's add a slight delay and then reset. Also, welcome in Madness. Great to have you. There is a link to the Discord in the description of the video. So hopefully that helps, Dylan. I'm just reading, but the website just keeps trying to send it to the app instead of the web version. Oh yeah, the app. Yeah, they don't really want the web version to exist, but you can get there by going to horizon.meta.com. Okay, this.nt.collidable.set false. And we wanted to try running this 0 velocity again. Control C after a small delay. So we'd say async dot set timeout, parentheses, arrow function, curly braces, curly braces, and then comma. We'll do a small delay of like 40 milliseconds, so 1 frame. And then Control V, Shift Alt F, Control Save, and see if that prevents it from sinking into the ground. Clear. World simulation on. Play. Grab. Just gonna quickly do a grab and a grab again. Come on. There you go. Okay, and fire. Oh. It does appear not to be syncing anymore, so that did seem to do the trick. Just some sort of like latency problems there. So we're just gonna drop up, fire it in the ground. Nice. That's actually pretty good. How does that look? I mean, that looks pretty good. Can we get that to work? There we go. Okay. I want to see if I can hit the target. Seems pretty unlikely. No, that would not work. There's no way. What's weird to me is it doesn't stick into... Oh, because the velocity doesn't slow down. It bounces off. Interesting. Oh, wait. No, that doesn't... No, that's fine, because it's the raycast. The raycast doesn't hit it, perhaps? Oh, see, that time the raycast did hit the object. Okay, so the collider is obviously a lot bigger. Yeah, that makes sense. The collider is a lot bigger than the raycast. Yeah, okay. Interesting. So it's working. That's kind of neat. It's not perfect. I want to test it in VR, see if it looks a lot better. The original design for this was meant to be a VR thing anyway, so we'll try that out. And yeah. But yes, Dylan, if you'd like to join the Vidyuu Discord, there's a link to the description, and in there you can get advice, ask questions, you can share some links, and all that good stuff. Okay, so ideally, I want to fire arrow, and land it on the target. Like, that would be pretty phenomenal. Okay, so we'll switch back so you can see my VR body to the desktop editor here, and let's get a good vantage point set up. That seems pretty decent. All right, I'll be there in just a second. Continue on my way. Awesome. Great to have you, Dylan. Thank you. Okay. Here I am. All right. I got to start the world. World simulation off. There we go. Perfect. It really does feel like it worked on first go. Ooh. Come on. Hit the target. Okay. A little bit less, more direct. Ooh, just more power. Hey, I finally got one to stick. But it was bouncing as it stuck, which is interesting. There we go. Okay, there's a second one. Kind of want that to be a little bit more stuck in. I'm thinking we make the raycast longer and then move it forward by just a little bit when it hits. So that way it doesn't have a time for the physics engine to try and bounce it. Which does theoretically mean that the... Wow, that's pretty good. Oh yeah, these are pretty bad actually. I'm gonna show you this on the desktop editor. See what you can see what I'm seeing. So if we fly over here, they're quite a bit off the... You can see like the raycast hit and it stopped, but it still needs to move forward. What's weird to me is, and I kind of want to watch this, I might watch this back. I want to see how is it hitting at this angle? Like, that's super weird. Let's find out. Let's see if we can find out why. Go grab that bow. Okay, getting up close. And yeah, I'm this close. No, not that close. Okay, right there. Oh. Now that is peculiar. Okay. I gotta be a little bit further back than that. Okay, that one behaved because it was nice and slow, as expected, right? So I'm gonna go back further and launch these. Like, why are they falling in? I'm watching. Oh, it seems like as they fly, the back starts to fall out. Are we okay? No, I'm not okay with that. What the heck? Just that one was crazy. Okay. Like, I want to play that video back so I can see what actually happened there. Let's go open up the internet, head to Studio, go to the live stream, go to live. All right, here we are. And let's play that back so I can see that section. Am I in the right spot? Where's the live? Should be able to see the there it is. Okay. Switch back here for just a sec. And full screen. Playback right here. Okay, so we're seeing these things shooting in. Nicely done. And then this one's going to bounce in just a second. Pause. Oh, I guess you can't see it because it's full screen to the wrong corner. I can't fix that. That's okay. But anyway, let's play. Come on, next one, is it? Nope, total miss. And it's got to be the next one. No, not that one. Next one. There it is. So it's like psh, psh. So it went psh, psh. Huh. It really felt like it kind of bounced a little bit. That's so curious. So if we're looking at, oh, and that was a different one, wasn't it? But maybe it wasn't. Looking at the distance. Yeah, okay, so that one actually did get close enough to collide. That's so strange, because they are running at 60 times per second, but I guess that's not very fast when you're firing bows and arrows. World simulation off and on. I did also notice that these ones were floating downwards, it seemed like. So I'm thinking we also need to add this async over into here right when we get the arrow. So we'll just do that real quick here. And then we want to apply this to the arrow, not to this dot entity. Arrow, okay, and control save. Okay, so that's been zero dot velocity. We got the arrow sticking, but then the problem was that it becomes collidable, so it starts bouncing. But we don't really need it to be collidable, so we can just never set it to collidable. That seems acceptable. I mean, yeah, we don't need the temp arrow then. So that's just code from last time. I'm then thinking on update, we could make the arrow collidable once it gets locked in. So right here, when it ray hits, after this zero dot delay, we can say this dot entity dot collidable dot set to true. So that way, like, you could bounce something off of it if you like threw an apple or something. So when it's flying, it is not collidable. That makes sense. Okay. Then the next change we want to make is to delete 4 of these arrows. Delete. And then go to this arrow, open up the raycast, and change the distance from 0.15 to 0.35 maybe. So we're predicting where we need to go, and then we just need to move forward by 0.3 meters. So when we hit, oh, hello again. Sorry, wrong one. When we hit right here, we need to move forward. So I'm thinking right in this moment, we then say this dot entity dot position dot set to be this dot entity dot position dot get dot add, and then we do parentheses, then we do this dot entity dot forward dot get, and then we multiply that by 0.3, so it moves forward by 1/3 of a meter, which should move it right into place. Might even go 0.35, control save. All right, I've got my VR headset still loaded up, so I'd like to try that out. I think that's giving the best results from a testing standpoint. And I guess I will set you guys over here. I think that's gonna look best from the stream standpoint. There we go, right there. Cool, clear. And starting world simulation. Putting headset on. I'll appear pretty quickly. Reloading into the world now. There I am. All right, here we go. Grabbing the bow, grabbing the string, and fire. Okay, too high. Where did that go? Oh, it went, did it go through? Wait, what? Okay, that one got stuck in. Way too far in. Okay, let's not move it so far. Like, that one worked perfect. Whoa. What was happening there? That was squiggling around. That shouldn't be possible. There it goes squiggling around again. Oh, because the collider is getting set. Oh. Okay, let's not turn collidable on. We don't need these to be collidable. That was just being silly. Turn collidable off. Right here. No collider. Because it couldn't be stuck inside if it's collidable. And you kind of want the arrow to get stuck inside of things, because that's like showing it going in, right? Makes sense. World simulation off. And back on. Okay, we'll try that one more time. Now it did sometimes go too far, so that's a whole nother bug to sort through. Okay, but first I'm just gonna launch all 5 of these. Seems to not be, I'm sure you're seeing it better than I am. Doesn't seem to be doing more than one. Yeah, it's just firing the one, isn't it? Yeah, how interesting. What could have happened there? Is the ownership, yeah, it could be the ownership transfer, like not transferring ownership. We'll hit the world reset and see if that helps. World simulation back on. Oh wait, I forgot to duplicate the new arrows. That's what it was. And Control D, Control D, Control D, Control D. There we go. World simulation off and back on. Okay. All right. Oh, so close. One. Go. Why am I so bad at this all of a sudden? Those are definitely flying through. Those are totally flying through. That could be a local scripting ownership issue as well. Reset. Well, I guess we never actually had a local ownership issue, but maybe we are now. We'll find out. Okay, grabbing, and fire. And fire. Fire. Whoa. Oh, does it get stuck if it's... Okay, that one got stuck in. So why didn't the others get stuck in? Is it just the one arrow that gets stuck in, and it's the... That one doesn't even fire. This could be a leave and come back sort of issue. Yeah, so there's the one arrow that works. I do like that it got stuck in a little bit. I feel like that feels realistic. Well, specifically when you're firing at like hay bales like this. That's not bad. That's not bad. Okay, so we're gonna try leaving and coming back and see if that fixes this arrow bug. Return to creation home. Whew. Okay, and I need to leave in VR as well. Let's go home. There we go. And I'm gonna actually turn the VR headset off now. And power off. Whew. Okay, so what am I thinking? I'm thinking we have solved a lot of the problems that I had set out to solve, and that it is getting to be 2 hours in. So we've got sticking into things working. Visual effects, sound effects, haptics, definitely necessary. They also need to have their ownership transferred, so if you're adding those on your own for visual effects and sound effects, you gotta make sure there's ownership transfer. Publish, mobile friendly. We could do a publishing test, which would help see if the thing works on mobile. But it's not really mobile friendly at this point. Distance leaderboard, bullseyes only. Some leaderboards could be really fun. I'm exhausted though. That first bug fixing sesh just wore me out, genuinely. So that seems pretty normal. Oh, thanks, Dylan. Appreciate that. And I think we're gonna have to come back to this, and I'd love to. I would love to come back to this. I am out of town starting Monday for 3 weeks, but when I get back, I think we'll do a part 3 and pick this up and make it a little bit better. There was an idea of having a heads-up display power, so you could see, like, as you pulled back how much power you were gonna apply. I think that would be really nice to add. But maybe we can just keep building a few of these little tutorials things here, and maybe we'll end up with an archery world by the time we're done. That'd be pretty cool. So if you've got follow-up questions, since I'm basically committing to a part 3 and maybe even a part 4, put them in the chat. I'll write them down if you're here live with us, and if you're here watching this later, put them in the comment section, and yeah, I'll write them down as well. Cool beans. We are going to end there, but thank you guys so much for checking in. The answer to the question of does leaving and coming back work is hard to answer, because sometimes you have to leave for 5 minutes and then come back, and we've only been gone for 4. But we'll give it a quick test and see. All right. Console, world simulation on, and play. Grabbing this, and what we're just going to do is just launch them into the ground. So that one worked. Nice. Next one. Let's get back further. Ooh, that one worked as well. Okay. And that one worked as well. Nice. That one did seem to go through, but it did seem like leaving and coming back seems to be the answer. Yep, that one worked too. And last but not least, also worked. So it does appear that all of these arrows are now working. And so it was a leave and come back sort of issue. Sometimes you just need to duplicate them again. Lots of problems in Horizon. I'm not gonna lie to you. With the current level of bugs, I have a really hard time recommending anybody joining Horizon and building. It is kind of fun. It's definitely a lot easier than something like Unity. But it's hard with the number of bugs, as you've experienced with us today, from the local scripting bugs to this one here at the end where we had to leave and come back. And there are plenty more. Like we had to the mobile thing we were trying to try. So Horizon's in its early days. They're rushing to build new features. That is a big part of the reason there are so many bugs. But anyway, it is what it is. It's fun though, and I look forward to building this some more with you. And I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Thanks for joining. Bye.